his feathers to his war.
We are the weirdos. So.
Black is night, wrist as the moon's sight. White as light, mighty heritage make it right.
I myself am strange and unusual.
Cast a circle, spark some incense, and grab a cup of tea, because it's time for the Cousins Coven podcast. I'm here with my cousin, and we're here to talk all things witchy, paranormal, cryptid, aliens, and beyond. My name is Sharon, a self-proclaimed witch and seeker of the truth.
And I'm Wendy. I'm armed with a wealth of experiences and inspired by anything paranormal. Today we're discussing Bigfoot, but first it's time for Cauldron Topics. All right. Curses.
Ooh, curses. I would never do a curse, first of all.
No, but I feel like some people do them unintentionally.
Oh,
like
yes.
A negative thought. Yeah.
Yes, I have definitely heard that even, like, the whole evil eye thing, like, you'd want to have an evil eye on the dash of your car because someone who just looks at you wrong or is mad that you cut them off, they're going to be mad at you, and that in and of itself is a curse.
Exactly. Yeah. Or, a work situation. Who knows?
Yeah. So curses, I think, can happen unintentionally just with, like, negative thoughts being put out into the universe about that person.
For sure. Yeah.
And there are witches that would do that for money and things like that. Like, I saw, like, a Vice video where they were talking to these gypsies and they were doing, like, a love spell. And the lady was boiling, like, creepy shit on her burner. She had, like, cat shit in there and dog shit in there. And she was telling the camera, yeah, I'm boiling all this stuff with these herbs, and so that this wife will leave her husband and go with the client. And that's what I'm getting paid to do.
Oh, my goodness. I feel like there should be a law against that.
Yeah, and she was just taking all this money, and they showed her going to, like, a MoneyGram office and picking up hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do these dark rituals for women.
Oh my gosh. And do you think that was legit? Do you think she was legitimately doing that, or they were trying to make it seem like that's what she was doing?
It seemed pretty legit, although it was being translated, if I can remember correctly. But it was just a Vice thing about gypsies and the gypsy life and how they do spells. So I think in other cultures, it's completely acceptable to just play both sides.
Sure. Wow. Interesting. All right. Well, anything else that you have to say about curses?
Is there anything one can do to ward off, like, curses? I think we've talked about that before, but just, like, cleansing yourself.
Yeah, you just have to cleanse yourself. I have this thing. I'm actually going to do a blog about it next week. It's basically taking a stone and putting all of the negative energy into the stone and then getting rid of the stone. But you have to put it in an area that no one else is going to come across it again, because all of the negative energy will be into that stone.
Yeah, I think proper disposal of the rock is key. So watch out for that blog post.
Yes, that will be coming in a few days. I'm not sure exactly when, but soon.
Yeah, I think it's scheduled for this week, like you said.
Yeah. So let's do another one. Okay, tarot. So what will we discuss about tarot?
Well, we both do use it, and I think it is a really good tool just to get alternate perceptions on any kind of situation. Even if you don't believe in fortune telling, I think that it's a therapeutic process to where whatever card you reveal, like if you have an issue going on with your career or your life or what direction you're in, and when you pull, like, a certain card, it's going to make you reflect on that situation in a new light.
Right.
That's kind of how I help myself with tarot. I'll just usually journal on the issue at hand and how I think it reflects with that card.
Right. I typically will do, if I have a specific question, I'll ask the question, like I'll shuffle the cards and I'll put all of my energy into the cards, and then I'll do like a 7-card spread. Mm-hmm. And if I have additional questions about what the cards are trying to tell me, I'll ask additional questions, like, let's say I'm asking how my day is going to go and I see something negative. So I'm asking, what's the cause of the negativity? So I'll pull an additional card if it's needed.
And you're an intuitive reader, is that correct? Or do you go off a book?
I am. Yeah, I'm intuitive. So, and typically, sometimes I use a regular set of tarot cards, but for the majority, I actually use playing cards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have a deck that I've probably used for about 10 years that has some sort of meaning and that I'm connected to.
I would assume that using the suits as tarot cards would mean you're more advanced because you're not getting the hints from the pictures and the archetypes that you have in a regular tarot deck.
Right, correct. And so actually that's how I learned was on those cards. And how I've honed it was to kind of connect more with my spirit guide maybe to help me. So typically if I'll touch a card, I'll get a flash of imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I tend to read.
Yeah, that is awesome. I am trying to learn tarot. I kind of picked it up this year and I was studying it for like the first couple months and then I just kind of like took a break on it. I most recently got like a new book. I think it's called the Tarot Companion. And it's like a really nice small book that you can just take with you on the go. And it like has like a page description on each card. And I find that helpful for me as a learner.
Yes, yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on tarot? It's always hard to do like a brief.
I know, on such a huge topic because really we could go into 100 different things about tarot, like not just about how we personally use it, but ways that it should be used and ways that it shouldn't. And the difference between seeing someone and paying them to read for you and just doing it.
We should mention how you do readings for people, though. We plug that.
Yeah, I do readings for people. I like to do it from far away. I don't do readings on the phone. I have done readings in person, but I find that when I do a reading for someone, I do better when they're not in front of me. And if I don't know what's going on in their life, because then I'm not putting my own perceptions into what the reading is going to be about. And so really, I just need to know the person's name, where they come from. If they have specific questions, then I would be able to answer those specific questions. But for the main part, I don't like to know any of that stuff except for their name and where they come from. And then I'll do a huge write-up and email that off to them. So I enjoy it. I feel like even though I've been doing it for a very long time, I still feel like I'm learning.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you're always expanding your knowledge and skill set on.
Right.
So
right,
where can people find you if they'd like to get a reading with you?
Currently, I think if you guys just want to send a request through a direct message through Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, or even a message on our blog at cousinscoven.home.blog, I would be more than happy to do a reading for you.
Yeah, so keep that in mind, viewers. If you'd like a reading, you can hit us up on our social media and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. So let's do another one. Opening your third eye.
Nice. I was really obsessed with this for a while. I was trying so hard to only eat like raw vegetables and have a perfect diet and just do everything to like cleanse my pineal gland. And after a couple of weeks, I just felt like that was too much, and it's not really needs to be that complicated.
Right.
Open your
I feel like
eye.
you just have to be in touch with yourself.
Yeah, like just like we talked about before, meditation, cleansing your chakras, connecting with your spirit guides. And
Right.
I think you can open your third eye like that organically.
Yes. I actually, I did a blog about this recently, kind of about aligning your chakra. And when it comes to the third eye, for me at least, it's kind of like a sheer blanket is being pulled away from it. And then I randomly will see this huge, or I shouldn't say huge, I see these flashes of things. It sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't, but it's kind of like, it's like more than just my life now. It's my lives. Because I believe in reincarnation, it's like all of my lives. Like I'm seeing bits and pieces of all of my lives.
That's pretty intense.
It is, yeah. And sometimes I'm just flying out in space when it's happening. in my mind's eye.
Dang.
It's pretty intense. I feel guilty sometimes about the fact that I have abilities that others, wish their whole life for. But for me, it just comes so naturally that it's just so easy. I hate to say that, but it's easy.
Have you come across other people who share these gifts? I'm sure it is far and few between.
Yeah, I've never met anybody who's exactly like me.
Yeah, and maybe there really isn't. I'm sure everyone has different scopes on it.
Right. I mean, I've met other psychics. I've definitely met people who know how to read palms and who have intuition. I've also met other empaths. And I feel like because I have a little bit of each gift, it's kind of like I had a basket and I went by and I met somebody and shook their hand and a little bit transferred onto me. And now I have that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's how it feels like in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because the older I get, the more I'm able to do.
Yeah, like fine tune it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's something else that I know about opening your third eye technique.
I really don't. I don't think it has anything to do with what you eat. So I liked that you said that. I do think
just a lot of people in the spiritual community who preach like you have to be so perfect in order to get these things.
No, I don't think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely not perfect. So
right.
I love junk food. So I'm pretty sure that that has nothing to do with it.
Yes, eat a ho-ho and your third eye will grow.
Right.
So should we move on to our main topic, or do you want to do one more?
I feel like we should move on to our main topic because this is a big one.
Yeah, it literally. Yeah. Bigfoot, he's known as Yeti, Yowie in Australia. Those are just a few of the names that have been given to him over the years. The term Bigfoot didn't come around until the 50s, actually, when a California newspaper reported on these Bigfoot castings. Going into this podcast, I wanted to research if there was evidence that he was real at some point.
You know, what I find very interesting is that there are intercontinental sightings, as well as thousands of reports for hundreds of years about Bigfoot or whatever he's named in whatever country they see those sightings at. And all of them vary in appearance and stature depending on the area they're seen. I just don't know if the difference is because of the witness perception, or are these beastly men actually different species, such as Gigantopithecus blackie, hairy apemen, or dwarf hairy men. I mean, they're all different types of men, but the same, if that makes sense. There's just so many mixed stories about it. And especially the fact that some people find him to be non-violent and others extremely violent. So what's the cause and the difference? Are they testing us, or is it simply a difference in human perception? So maybe the Bigfoot is angry at some people because he's trying to see how far he can push the limits and the boundaries.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest question for non-believers is, where is the evidence? And the truth is, the evidence is out there. You just have to open your eyes to all the physical evidence that's available, even though it's not necessarily a body. But there are tracks, hairs have been found, teeth marks on animal carcasses, and even scat of just unknown primate creatures have all been found. There's also film, audio, and thousands of eyewitness accounts throughout history that corroborate with this evidence.
It's pretty fascinating how much the evidence really stacks up. There's quite a bit more out there. Since we've been doing this research, I found way more out there than I even knew existed.
Yes, going into this podcast, sort of a skeptic. Like, I want to believe in Bigfoot, therefore I think I just, that's all I had. I wanted it to be true. And then it's all made to be like a hoax, and you're not supposed to take it seriously. But when you start digging into it, there is so much information out there and footage that it just seems completely legit.
Exactly. So one of the cases, obviously, is one of the most famous cases. It's the Patterson footage. He was able to catch Bigfoot on camera in 1967. And the video was taken in Bluff Creek, California. Some people think it's the best evidence that there is out there. I mean, the gait of him walking, the the height of him, just the enormous size of him, it just looks like a Bigfoot. And then other people are like, no, that was a complete hoax. That had to have been a man in a suit. It's very controversial footage. It's one of the biggest controversial things, I feel like, in the Bigfoot community, and nobody can really agree on whether it's real or not. The footage only lasts about a minute, and it's shaky due to Patterson chasing the creature on foot. And the large creature is filmed walking, and at one point he turns towards the camera and he shows his chest, or his chest, her chest, I should say, which confirmed that it was a female. It's just so interesting.
Yeah, and I like that you can even see like the articulation of its big toe as it walks up and down. And people who are on the skeptic side like to say that's just a man in a suit with clown shoes on, and that's how the toe's moving. But there is no way that a man in a suit could move like that.
Right. Funny story is that I do remember growing up watching this footage on TV, like on Ripley's Believe It or Not. It was like in the 80s. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's real. I totally believe.
So were you pretty shook at that point in time?
No, I was excited.
Mm-hmm. You're like, I knew it. Yeah, a lot of people have tried to say this was a hoax, and it's just kind of like, they try to say it's a man in a furry costume, and there's even people who have stepped forward claiming to be that person in the suit, and obviously they can't all be that person. And yet to this day, no one has been able to recreate the footage while they were wearing an ape suit and walking that same path. It just hasn't been done. There have been Bigfoot authorities, including the late Grover Natz, Jeff Meldrum, and John Green. They all held that the film is valid footage of an unknown primate. And there was even an examination of the Patterson footage that had cost over $70,000 by the North American Science Institute, and it concluded the footage was genuine. The research had proven that a man can't walk the same way and move and articulate their muscles the same way if they're inside of a fur suit. You just wouldn't see that definition and pull of muscle. Like as he lifts his arm, like his breast muscle is getting, her breast muscle is getting pulled down.
Yeah, just the size of him, right? I mean, he was ginormous. So why would we think that a human was that big?
Yeah. And there's a lot of information on the Patterson footage that you can check out at the bfro.net for the Bigfoot, is it Bigfoot Field Research Organization?
Yes,
and they have an
yeah.
entire page dedicated to how this footage is real and it never was debunked. It's just in mainstream media, they like to say it's untrue.
Wow. Okay, so in part of the research, I found that there is a law in Skamania County in the state of Washington that you cannot kill Bigfoot if you find it. They will charge you a $1,000 fine, which seems pretty low to me because you would make more money than that if you were to try to sell the body of Bigfoot.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And a lot of people in doing this research, I found out they do this Bigfoot stuff to make money. And that's
Really?
why they say hoaxers have a motivation, because if you can hoax a good footage, then you're going to get some cash from doing TV interviews, selling the footage, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of people who try to use Bigfoot as an income.
That's sad to me.
Mm-hmm. So I think you're right that a $1,000 fine wouldn't stop anybody. And most people's reaction, if they have a gun and they're in the woods and a giant creature's coming towards them, is to defend themselves by shooting it.
Right, exactly.
So I think it's really cool that the law's there, but would anyone listen to it?
Yeah, probably not. Maybe if it was a higher fine amount.
Yeah, but I guess the fact that that law even exists is just proof right there that Bigfoot has to be real.
Right. He's out there, and he's in Skamania County.
Yeah, they all know. They're woke. They know the situation.
That's right.
So the majority of Sasquatch researchers, they all believe that Bigfoot is just a giant ape that science, zoology have yet to conclusively classify. But the deeper I researched into Bigfoot, the weirder the whole thing became. There are a lot of findings that suggest Bigfoot is something far stranger than just an ape. And there are plenty of reports of Bigfoot vanishing into flashes of light or fading away. And people have seen him become invisible in front of their very eyes. So this has given rise to a theory that Bigfoot has the ability to traverse multiple dimensions, and that's why he can go for a long time without being seen and just vanish right in front of people. The varying theories of the logistics of how are kind of interesting. There is one theory I was reading that it could be through vibration, and they say if they are able to control their vibration and vibrate at a different rate, they will not be seen. So this could have something to do with the fact that he can just disappear at will in such a strange fashion. And there's so much unknown about Bigfoot that who's to say he couldn't control his vibration? I think it's kind of a stretch, but it is an interesting theory. The most common theory is that they travel through wormholes. So if you believe in the theories that wormholes are on Earth, it would be quite easy for anything to come through, like Mothman, aliens, and even Bigfoot. So UFOs and Bigfoot sightings have happened a lot at the same time. They say they might even be coming through together or even working together. So in my mind, that just means that space Wookiees and Chewbacca is real. And that's this whole episode is about. Chewbacca is real.
I knew it. I always believed in Ewoks.
Yeah, there was one story that we had found in this book that we got. What is the book called again?
The Bigfoot Book, the encyclopedia of Sasquatch, Yeti, and cryptid primates, and it's written by Nick Redfern.
Yes, and Wendy actually found this book and recommended it to me, so we both went to our libraries to pick it up, and it is really cool. It just goes from like A to Z, all the different times Bigfoot has been recorded being seen, or different times he's popped up in like pop culture movies. So it was really conclusive, and it gave us so many sightings to go through. And one that really stuck out in my mind was in Fayette County, Pennsylvania. There was this guy, he was a researcher named Stan Gordon, and he was investigating dozens of like UFO sightings that were in conjunction with Bigfoot that were taking place all throughout Pennsylvania in the early 70s. One event in 1973 on October the 25th, Palmer, he reported seeing a bright light, like an illuminated UFO hovering over farmland, and it was around like 9 p.m. at night. And he goes out to go look at it, and he then witnessed a pair of ape-like animals. They had long legs and muscular arms, and they just started walking out of the shadows of the field towards him. So naturally, he shot at them with several bullets, and they didn't even seem to really react or get hurt at all, but they just decided to like retreat back into the darkness. And that was the end of his sighting, but several weeks later, there were 2 Air Force officers who came to his home, and they knew all about the encounter, and they confronted him about it, and they said that Sasquatches and UFO were both genuine. So they were showing Palmer a number of photos of Bigfoot, and they wanted to know if that ape-like creatures that he witnessed were resembling them or the same. So that after the questioning, they asked Palmer if he'd be willing to be placed into a hypnotic state to ensure that the military secured all the relevant data, and Palmer agreed. So I wonder if they hypnotized him into, I don't know, keeping that information secure?
It was like Men in Black, and they erased it.
Right. So that was my main question. It was like, so government knows that Bigfoot exists and aliens. They're collecting data on it, yet they're trying to hide everything from us. So
right.
Why would they be doing that?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I wish there would have been some more evidence as to what happened after the hypnosis.
Yeah.
You know, what was the outcome of that? Right. And why did he initially just decide to shoot at them? Do you think it was because he was scared, or?
I think that seems to be the case in a lot of these stories and encounters. They're just seen out in the middle of the woods and out in farmlands, and the men that are out there late at night tend to just be carrying weapons because they don't know if it's a mountain lion that might come out at them or a bear. They're just prepared to shoot. So I think they're already in that mind state.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Right? Because like if I were to go hunting for Bigfoot, I don't have a license to carry a gun. I wouldn't have a gun. I would probably get killed trying to communicate with him.
Right. I don't know. My first instinct would be like to approach him like very quietly and almost motherly and be like, "Hi, my name's Wendy."
I have heard, that they respond well to female voices and arm gestures. So you can vocalize to them and try to like wave at them and just let them know like, "Hey, I'm cool, I'm peaceful." And that's the best approach to have. Right.
Yeah, when I read something about that, I was like, oh, hand gestures, but they've already proven that there are orangutans that know sign language, so that kind of makes sense.
Yes, I forgot that gorilla's name that knows sign language, but he is highly intelligent. And this is going off on a random gorilla sign language tangent, but he had met Robin Williams at one point in his life. And like years later, when Robin Williams died, his handler was trying to explain to him that he passed away. And like the gorilla had understood because he had kept like cat pets for years as his companions, like little kittens. And so he got so sad when Robin Williams died. He started like signing things about like how he was sad and just he was lonely and didn't want to be anyone to talk to him. It was incredible, like his level of understanding death.
Oh, that is so touching.
It was a really good little documentary I found on YouTube. I'll try to find that and link it below. I think his name was Bubbles, but that just sounds insulting. Like it can't have been Bubbles.
Actually, I think you might be right.
Was it?
Bubbles. Well, no, you know what? Maybe that was Michael Jackson's.
Oh, yes. I'm
Little
like,
monkey.
maybe. Let me
Shoot.
Google that. Sign language gorilla. Let's see what comes up. Koko.
Oh, Koko.
So if you look
Bubbles.
up, I'm so sorry, Koko. He's a really smart primate, and I only imagine that Bigfoot is a bit more intelligent.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that there are a lot of animals and primates that are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. Mm-hmm. So my study took a whole different turn than yours did. I really was fascinated by genetic testing. So for me, I found this Dr. Melba Ketchum. She did genetic testing on Sasquatch hair, and I think that she also had access to some scalp. You know, makes me think, okay, so she was able to extract DNA from these samples and provide proof that Sasquatch really exists. So I keep wondering, how did she get those samples and where were they being stored? And she's literally been testing for the past 12 years. So it's taken a long time for her to get all of this out into the public. And she's trying to get, not necessarily scientists to back her, but government to back getting that out to the public.
Yeah, I was wondering if she had any government funding.
She doesn't. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's all private.
So she's just testing like different samples that field researchers are getting?
Yeah. So they have the ability now, even for humans. I mean, I'm sure you've seen genetics testing that they do. I've done it myself where I got one of those DNA kits online and sent it off to see who my ancestors were. Basically, that's what they're doing with genetic testing, is they're finding out where the mother came from and where the father came from this sample. And so in most of the things that she finds, they'll find either one parent was human or one parent was ape or Neanderthal or something, and then the other parent is unknown.
I've heard a lot of theories that there's like Neanderthal genetics in the whole Bigfoot thing.
Yeah, so they're not really 100% sure. It seems to be a mix, at least from Melba Ketchum's. She knows that for certain there is a missing link because there is unknown DNA. In fact, she sent off some samples because she uses different places for the same samples so that she can look at them and see if they're all coming up with the same data. That way she's not like, oh, this is a fluke, because there's a possibility that if you don't have the right amount of extracted DNA, then you might not get 100% results. Mm-hmm. And so she sends it off to different labs so that she can get, make sure that they're consistent results. And they've all said the same thing. Where did you find this? You found something incredible.
Yet none of that gets published in modern day journalism. Like, we should know about this.
Right. She does have a website. I'm going to have it linked to this podcast so that way you guys can check it out. It's pretty exciting that she said for 8 years, they've known 100% that Sasquatch exists, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call him. I think that she refers to him as Sasquatch, but she's like, they've known that he exists, but it's really hard to get this out there for everybody to believe.
That is awesome. I want to check out that website as well.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And so on another note, I did find another researcher, Bryan Sykes. He is pretty cool too. He also studied the genetics of Bigfoot. He traveled around the world gathering data, stories, going to Bigfoot's lair. He has a really cool book called Bigfoot, Yeti, and the Last Neanderthal. So he's been doing all of this genetic testing, but some of the samples he came up with were also like Melba Ketchum's, where it was, you could figure out what one parent was, but the other one, it's completely unknown. In some instances, he would find that, maybe the sample was a mix between a polar bear and a brown bear. And so he wasn't really sure. He was leaning more towards that theory, that maybe it's just a mix of these ancient bears that no longer exist today. And it's hard for me to believe that, because even though bears can walk on their hind legs, I don't think that they can walk the same way that we see a Bigfoot. Yeah.
I agree with you. I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was just trying to, which I do love, and I like his opinions, but I don't always agree with him. He was just saying how he is a hunter and he's seen black bears walking in the woods and how you could confuse it for a Bigfoot. And then they showed like a clip of a bear walking, and it like hobbles from side to side. Like, it is not the same thing at all.
Right. And I mean, they have movies. I can't name on any off the top of my head, but I have seen like movies from the 80s that I watched where it was like a kid's movie and the bear would be walking like for a circus act, and they just do not walk the same at all. And plus, I've seen it in person. I've seen a bear walk in person. It's not the same at all.
Yeah, it's just one of those times where people are so blind because they can't accept that there's something undiscovered like a Sasquatch.
Right. So which is crazy, because we come across things in the ocean all of the time that we've never known existed, or maybe prehistoric, and it's more acceptable for some reason. That's a whole topic for another story, because I know lots about that topic. So hopefully one day we'll get to that. But seriously, why can they not accept that Bigfoot is real?
Yeah, they shouldn't be so close-minded to the possibility. Like, there is a lot of information online, a lot of stuff we uncovered. If you just go looking into it for even just a couple hours, you will be surprised.
Right. Well, I'm going to dig into a what if. So, I mean, what if it is like Bryan Sykes said, if it's just an interracial bear mix, except after that interracial bear was born, that bear mated with an ancient human, something before Neanderthal, something that had ape-like qualities. My rational brain says that could happen, but let's just take a jump down the rabbit hole. So what if Bigfoot is a genetic mutation, or a being that's been crafted by gene splicing, which was done in another dimension? So if you believe in aliens, which, by the way, that's becoming more and more accepted these days, and if you believe aliens are visiting Earth from far away, they would most likely be traveling from outside our solar system. And since they would be traveling at the speed of light or faster, scientists would deem them extra-dimensional beings, and the theory would be that if they can travel here to Earth, they would also be able to breach interdimensionally. And if they can do this, they most likely know how to create and bend wormholes, which means they should be so much more intelligent than us. And even though Bigfoot does not appear to be such an intelligent species to create or craft wormholes, it could be controlled by other extra-dimensional beings. So what if Bigfoot is here to observe and test us and report back to the otherworldly beings? He uses his invisibility and his telepathic powers to watch us when we are unaware, hence the reason why we don't constantly see him. So now the question becomes, why are they here? And what are they trying to learn? And who are they reporting to?
Right. And that kind of goes back to the theory of wormholes I was talking about earlier. It all really does match up. I think that it's completely possible that they're coming through at the same time as aliens and working with them. Right.
But why? What are they trying to find out?
I know. Well, why would they be studying us?
To interfere with things that we're doing. I know I've heard about aliens interfering when we get too violent or too involved in nuclear activity.
Right.
So maybe they're trying to stop us from killing ourselves. I don't know.
Yes, and it seems odd to use Bigfoot because if he's just out in the wilderness, or do you think he's traveling to the suburbs and watching us silently and invisibly?
I think it is possible.
He's just watching me watch Top Model through the window.
It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what they're wearing.
Yes, so he's learning all about smizing.
Yeah.
I don't think that any alien could learn much from watching me.
I think that they would learn some really fun culinary tips from us. Like, oh my God, I've been snacking on wood. Why am I not eating pizza?
That's true. Like, a Bigfoot is not a man of the arts, so he probably appreciates the finer things, like our culture and our cooking.
Right.
Maybe they're taking our movies back to their homeworld and they're showing everyone Avengers Infinity War.
Maybe. It's like, oh my gosh, look at this archaic stuff.
I just feel like the question of why is far beyond me and my imagination.
Well, I had read reports, some of the reports that I came across, they were wearing clothes. Some of the eyewitnesses would say that they had been wearing clothes. They were tattered and torn. And so I'm like, well, were they out in the woods and a hunter was like, you're naked, put these on. And then the clothes were too small and they had to, be torn apart to fit on them? Or were they wearing them and then they were genetically modified somehow with, I don't know, somebody inserting some sort of DNA into them and they hulked out and tore their clothes.
So they're like werewolves or something.
Yeah, and they came out of the wormhole. Oh my gosh, the werewolf. That would be pretty amazing if instead of a werewolf, it was like this man was just laying in bed and it's like, man, it's a full moon. I'm turning into Bigfoot.
That would make things in the bedroom spicy. Honestly, like, I can't handle living with my husband as it is now. I'm like, your hair is in the sink. You clogged it again. So if he was hairy, that would make my life
so
miserable.
funny.
Get off the furniture.
Your shoes, they just take up the whole closet.
Yes. I think this is a legit theory. Or when they come through the wormholes, it's like Terminator and they have to come through naked, but he forgot to take off his clothes and they just like ripped through the process of time travel.
I always wondered how that happened. I mean, did they just have a go bag and they put their clothes in there?
Yeah, you just have to steal an outfit from the closest homeless man in an alley. And you're good to go.
That's too funny.
This has been a great tangent.
It totally has been. It's so funny. So, since Bigfoot exists, I want to know who they're mating with. Like who's producing these Bigfoot babies? Is it other Bigfoot, or could you imagine being a woman giving birth to a Bigfoot? Like I just imagine. I mean, I've given birth, so I'm trying to imagine what it would be like to give birth to a giant.
And then your
giant Bigfoot baby that's hairy all over from head to toe.
And then it would be a hybrid. I feel like there would be women coming forward, like claiming to be like, I mated with a Bigfoot.
Right.
And you don't really get that. So that is something I didn't find in my research is, do Bigfoots live in like family groups, or how many of them live together? Because the Patterson footage was of a female.
Right,
but she was by herself, and sometimes you see a female with like a little cub clinging to her, but I've never seen like a male and a female walking together.
Yeah, maybe they're just like, you know what? We did the deed, and I just can't stand you anymore, so you've served your purpose.
Yeah, I wonder if they do travel alone. I think in twos is the thing I was hearing.
Mm-hmm. Which is just weird. And I mean, let's say the theory of aliens isn't correct. What if we're all wrong? So I did read that they love to hide in caves, remote caves that maybe humans never go to. So if that's the case, it'd be interesting to see how many of them live per cave, and that they have these rules that maybe only some of them can go out at a time because they're afraid to be caught.
Yeah, and I wonder who are the hunters of, is it the men or is it the women? Kind of like how lions
Right. Or is it
divide
both?
tasks. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the fact that they've found, obviously they had to have found more than just hair and scat and scalps in order to get as much DNA as they've been able to get. So it makes me wonder how they were able to find that. And
there have been stories about the government finding Bigfoot bodies and just not telling anyone.
Right.
Like that Mount St. Helens one. Should we mention that?
Oh, yeah, let's mention that. So when Mount St. Helens erupted in the 80s, it was huge. It killed several people. But
most everyone got evacuated. I think it was like 3 deaths, but a lot of animals and the forest terrain got messed up.
Right. And ash spread everywhere for hundreds of miles, thousands of miles, actually, because I think it went as far west as Utah. And I know where I was at, the ash was probably 3 to 6 inches in some places.
Right. And so the eruption happened in Washington, just for those who I don't know if they knew, and then you were in Oregon.
I was in Oregon, yeah.
Right. So that's a whole other state below it. And my mom said she saw it too, and that she would describe the ash coming down almost like snow.
Yeah, I thought it was snowing. I ran out and was like, yay, it's snowing. And my mom's like, get in the house. That's bad for you.
Yeah. And so the rumor with the Bigfoots are that there were at least 3 or 4 Bigfoots who got caught up in all of that mess, and that they died or they were in critical condition. And the legend goes that the government workers picked them up via helicopter, but they weren't in the helicopter, that they were carrying them in little nettings underneath the helicopter and evacuating them out of there and taking them God knows where to probably experiment on.
Right, which is crazy. Obviously they didn't fit into the helicopter because it was supposedly Chinook helicopters. And if anybody has seen a Chinook helicopter, they are ginormous. You can fit a lot of people onto a Chinook helicopter, but they couldn't fit a Bigfoot in there.
I love that you just know what kind of helicopter it was.
I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. I'm like, oh, good job. Googling Chinook helicopter.
It's huge. They're huge. I've been in one before many eons ago, but still, they're huge.
Yeah, so that is a story that there's not a definite witness who came forward who's credible, and they actually did work with the government. So that's where it makes it hard to back up factually.
Right.
But instances like that, I do believe that if a government agent were to find a Bigfoot, they wouldn't tell anyone, and they're just going to take it straight back to wherever they do and do the genetic testing is very possible.
Right, just like they thought with Roswell. So why wouldn't it happen with anything else? I'm sure there's thousands of things out there that we don't know about because it's been hidden from us.
Yeah. Do you believe in Bigfoot? Make sure to comment on this podcast to let us know. Thank you for listening, and join us next week where we will discuss sleep paralysis and astral projection. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, if you don't know, we have a blog which is really easy to find at cousinscoven.home.blog. We are also on YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play. So send us your questions for Cauldron Topics or comments to cousinscoven2@gmail.com.
May you find happiness in your heart, love for yourself, and joy in each other. Blessings to all.
I think you better come take a look at this.
George, what is it? Could it be a gorilla?
I don't think they get that big around here.